Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by King of the Cage heavyweight champion, Nick Rossborough. Nick, how are you?
Good, and yourself?
I'm doing good. Nick, you got a fight coming up May 10th at Showdown Fights 11. How's training been going for the fight?
Good. Had to take about a week off, make sure my bones and everything from King of the Cage fight was pretty good. But other than that, it's good, Didn't skip a beat, back in the gym and doing what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. In your last fight, you defeated Tony Lopez to claim the King of the Cage heavyweight belt. How did you feel about your performance in the fight?
I felt really good about the performance. I came to do what I said I was going to do, and I did it. Anything could always be better, maybe a little bit more cardio and stuff like that. But I feel, awesome about the performance I put on in the show that I gave them out there when I claimed it.
Mm-hmm. And that was a rematch of a fight that a lot of people thought you won. It was a very close fight, a split decision. I'm just curious, that first fight, how did you score it? How did you see it first when the fight actually happened, like reflecting on it after the fight, and then when you went back and watched the tape? What were your thoughts about that first fight, and how did you score it?
During the fight, stuff like that, going into the judge's score or into their hands, I do feel, even after the fight, that I had won. I knew it was going to be close, but I figured I would have walked away with a split decision win over him. Understanding though that he was the King of the Cage poster boy there for a while. He was a hometown favorite, and a lot of people knew him and didn't know who I was. So that's always the risk of taking it into the judges' hands, But I was confident going in that I would at least walk away with a split decision in that fight. But obviously, a couple judges didn't see that and had it way lopsided in that. After having the video be released and actually watching the video, I still do believe that it was I possibly could have even walked away with a unanimous decision instead of the other way around. I dropped him in the first and took his entire back, and I was just more active the entire fight. And like I said, not only myself, but a lot of the people, the fans, and the promotion and stuff. They all thought that I had won the fight. So it is what it is. I can't change it. I go back, and that's why I came out the second fight and proved this time around that I beat him the first time. But this time I just had to show it just as bad, or worse than the first fight. So.
Mm-hmm. In the second fight, what adjustments did you make game plan wise and stuff like that? Because the first fight, like I said earlier, a lot of people thought you won. So what kind of stuff did you have to tailor to make the game plan a little bit better so that you would get that decision?
Loud, whatever that. I apologize for that. The only adjustment I made in the gym was more being in shape for the second fight, and that was just because I had a year layoff prior to the first fight with Tony. And not saying that's an excuse of any means. I did go 3 rounds, and I felt good about it. But the second fight was to just adjust the cardio and make sure that I can go a 5-round fight with him, because I know he's capable of doing that. That's how he usually beats his opponents. He'll wear a storm and take him into the later rounds and then defeat him that way because they're so tired and gassed up that they can't really perform. So, in the gym, I didn't change up much of anything in the sense of I have the ability to beat him already. Just matter of fact of just putting cardio and time into that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, going forward, you're fighting Lucas Tabor on May 10th. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
I respect him as an opponent. I don't know anything about the guy, so that's a scary aspect going into stuff. We have nothing, no video, no tapes of anything for my trainers to take a look at. So I do respect him, and anybody that's willing to step in the cage is always a game's opponent. So I look forward to that. I'll just have to go and fill it out a little bit and use my technique and see where it goes from there, just to find out where I can beat him. I don't know if he's a brawler or a wrestler or jiu-jitsu guy or what. So that's the scary aspect, not knowing where he's great at to take him away from that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that makes 2 of us, because I never heard of him before. And so the game plan basically going into this fight is to not have a game plan.
I don't really have a game plan going into any fight because a lot of times they go out I just got to go in to each and every fight to perform to my best abilities, which I know how to do. My hands are really good. I'm not saying his couldn't be better. I do have good jiu-jitsu, trained from one of the greats, Jeremy Horn himself. So, our horn jiu-jitsu that we have is amazing. So, I'll keep it standing up, and if I see something different, then I might have to take him down. So, it's just all play it by ear, play it by feel. More to say in that sense. Just going out there and feeling him out for the first minute or so, and see where I know that my strengths could be.
Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about your training. Give us a little bit of a taste of what goes on in elite performance.
We do. Me personally, I get there. I usually do my strength and conditioning prior to the gym itself, or prior to any training with Horn or DeMarcus or any of those guys. So I usually start my day off with some sort of strength and conditioning, whether it be in the back with my strength and conditioning coach Chris McGrail, doing some powerlifting exercises and getting into shape that way. And then from there on, I start with technique, whether it be a stand-up or ground or wrestling, and then depending on that as well, we have our wrestling coach, Brennan Ruiz, who helps us out quite a bit. And then after the technique class, we just open up the mat to either open grappling or, open stand-up, whichever we choose. And so those are my basic routines that I just do day in and day out. And every once in a while, once or twice a week, I get my hard rounds in with Horn and Ruiz and those guys to put me to work to get me used to the pressure and, a fight-type atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Now, who's going to be cornering you for this fight?
I'm going to have DeMarcus Johnson corner me. He's pretty much in all my corners. We just have that connection. I feel really comfortable with him. And, Horn will be out of town this go-around, so I'll have a couple other guys from our gym helping me out, just, giving some other, sights that maybe DeMarcus doesn't see.
Mm-hmm. Now, DeMarcus Johnson, he's fighting on this card as well. Are you fighting before or after him?
I'm actually fighting before him, but unfortunately he's no longer fighting on the card.
Oh.
He got injured and had to pull out, so.
Oh, I see. Is this fight going to be at 205 or heavyweight?
Heavyweight.
Oh. So, you fought a majority of your career at 205. Now, these last couple of fights against Lopez were at heavyweight. How have you bulked up to, become a bigger heavyweight? Because, a lot of people thought when, you were fighting for King of the Cage and the heavyweight title, you were kind of just a blown up 205er. How have you, tried to develop your body to be, a good solid size heavyweight?
Honestly, most of my career, I was actually an 85er until I met, my strength and conditioning coach, Chris McGrail, and hit a real weight room and got on a real training regimen in that case. So once I started to get that, I started to bulk up a little bit more. I do have a nutritionist as well that helped me get up pretty heavy to where I can maintain some strength and also, not lose my step or lose any quickness in that aspect. So getting up to the weight that I'm at now, around 244 pounds, it just comes down to the proper nutrition and the proper training, and with Chris and my nutritionist Jesse helping me get there, then that's how I bulked up. So it moved to 205, and then once I started to get to 205, walking around about maybe 220, 230, I wanted to be, and I wanted to test the waters because I wanted to see my ability in the sense of being able to find out how fast I can be better than most heavyweights.
Mm-hmm. What would be a typical meal for you when you're trying to bulk up? Give me a sample of what you'd be eating when you're trying to develop into this bigger heavyweight.
Say for instance breakfast. I'd have like 2 or 3 slices of bread, maybe 8 to a dozen eggs, some salsa on the side, mixed in. And if it's not that, then what I usually do is I turn that into like a French toast. I'll mix the eggs up, put the bread into it, just make it a little bit simpler, and then scramble the eggs with everything else like that. That's a typical morning breakfast for me. And then, I eat about every 3 hours, and after that, a typical snack would be maybe half of some oatmeal with a protein shake. For dinners, usually, roughly, I would have, it just depends on
Was this something that you always, thought you were going to be a heavyweight? I'm sure, if you wanted to, you could have probably stayed at 205 for a while and been a big 205er. But was this something that you always thought about? That because you are a very tall guy, you're 6'5". Did you always think that eventually down the road you would be a heavyweight?
Not down the road. I did not. Once I hit 205, though, that's when I really started to contemplate the fact that I hit the weight room and I started to see my body grow into what I think the natural size of my body should be. Growing up, I'd always played basketball, so I never really was in the gym the way I should have been because basketball players don't lift that way. So once I started to gain a little bit more weight and I started to see that this is the natural size of my body, I fit perfectly into this, then I started to concentrate, or not even concentrate, just poke around with my management and everything and find out, is this something that's doable? Could I hang with someone who's a natural heavyweight? Because I've never been there, But, and now, I love it. The first heavyweight I ever had, it was different for me, but it's something that I could enjoy. And as for right now, I'll stay at heavyweight until maybe I get the phone call from the bigger league, UFC or something like that.
Now, I got to ask you, you have a lot of nicknames. Let's start with the first one that they got listed down for you. Let's start with Leatherface. How did you get this nickname?
Leatherface that was the very first nickname someone had ever given to me. Here locally in our local circuit, we were able to fight once a week, if that. And I started off fighting quite a bit and just, I didn't really get phased too much. My skin and everything like that was just pretty tight and lean and never been cut. And then that's where that came from. It was just a leather face in that sense, something that just stayed. And I was like, oh, that's weird. So.
And now, how did you get the nickname the Slim Shady of MMA?
The Slim Shady of MMA was dubbed from Dana White himself when I appeared on Ultimate Fighter Season 7. Him and Rich Franklin, my personality, I guess, or the skin color from being white and talking with an accent, I think just poked out to them, and the personality just all clicked with them that they dubbed me the Slim Shady of MMA. So, and from then on, that one stuck, and that's the one that I use.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, do you have a preference? Because on your website, it has you as the Slim Shady of MMA, but King of the Cage, when they're announcing you and the pre-fight stuff, they had you down as Leatherface. So you do prefer Slim Shady over Leatherface.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the promotions, if it's live like that, then they go off of what I actually tell them, the fighter bio. I think most organizations or people that just put things together just look off the internet, and with the underground and everything, it used to say this Leatherface, but that recently had changed. So hopefully, from here on out, that it stays the Slim Shady of MMA for people, and I can rock that around. So.
Now, is this a one-off with Showdown Fights, or do you have a contract with them?
Just a one-type deal. It's in my hometown. I've been wanting to fight locally for here, or for quite a while, since my last fight about two years ago. So, I got a lot of fans and family here and friends that love to see me fight and can't always go out of town, and sometimes the fights aren't always aired. So, this was a one-time deal. Unless they choose to re-sign me after, who knows,
How many tickets have you sold? Have they called upon you to help sell tickets? And if so, how many people are going to be there to support you?
Yeah, the local circuit, a lot of the promotions do offer ticket sales and stuff like that, try to help have the fighters help out by selling those. And as of now, the fight's next Friday. We don't have to turn tickets in until, the 9th. But as of now, I think I've sold like at least 80 tickets or so.
And King of the Cage, you still have a contract with them? They're just, allowing you to take a one-off right here?
Yep, King of the Cage, my original contract with them was they take precedence in anything that I have, but so they allow me to, if it doesn't coincide with something that they have lined up for me, then I'm able to take a fight outside of that.
Now, you're scheduled to defend the King of the Cage heavyweight belt on June 22nd. You're going to be fighting Cody East. Is that your next fight, or would you be open to taking one in between there? That is my next fight. In between that, I think would be just a little too soon for anything.
into that. That was King of the Cage's, the June 22nd against Cody East was a little sooner than I had hoped for, but, this is my job. Beggars can't really be choosers in that sense, and, when I didn't have fights lined up, that's all I wanted was to fight, and now that I have them lined up, my body's staying healthy, I haven't been injured, so I'm just going to run with it, and do what I do.
Mm-hmm. Now, will you take some time off, maybe a week or two after this fight, and then get right back into training, or after this fight's over, that Monday you'll be back in the gym?
That Monday, I plan on being back in the gym. Already, talked to my strength and conditioning coach, bounce right back and continue to do that. I did have a vacation plan, but I had to push that aside due to the fact that the June 22nd fight is a pretty big fight for me. I actually get to defend the title and show people that I am a champion. I got the belt now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm just a champion. I want to go out and defend it and show the people that this is Nick Rossborough. This is who King of the Cage heavyweight champ is going to be for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. And now, Cody East, he's a bigger guy than Tony Lopez. Tony Lopez, I think he could fight at 185, so, he's not that big of a heavyweight, even though he is the super heavyweight champion for King of the Cage, but he's not very big for heavyweight. Cody East is a good-sized heavyweight. Is that something that intrigues you about this matchup, and, something that you're looking to prove that you can hang with, the guys who are considered big at this weight class? Is that something that interests you about this fight?
It does. I think he weighs about maybe 240, 245, somewhere in that range, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So it is a challenge for me, I move with guys bigger than him back in my gym. I got guys that are 250, 260, and some close to 300 pounds. So Cody East is a challenge for me in that aspect to really test myself and be able to technique him or outfight him in the game that he thinks that he's going to beat me as being bigger and stronger than me. So
you said that you have a contract with King of the Cage. How many fights are left on this contract?
I think 3.
Well, okay. Well, King of the Cage, they're obviously keeping you busy, and as long as you're under contract with them and you keep winning, then I'm sure they'll keep you active and keep you busy and keep you making some money. So that's good.
Yes, I'm excited. Like I said, the first contract was just a 5-fight deal, and after that, I have one of the most reputable managers in the sport, so I stay confident in what he can do and get for me, and I just let him do his job, and I do my job.
Mm-hmm. Now, last question. Obviously, you have this fight coming up, and then you have the Cody East fight, so a lot of time has to happen first, and a lot of things have to line up. But would you be open, regardless who wins, Trevor Prangley or Tony Lopez, they're going to fight for the light heavyweight title. Would you be open if you continue to win? Would you be open to dropping down to 205 and trying to claim that belt as well, regardless of who wins? Maybe get a rubber match with Lopez or just a fight with Trevor Prangley. Would you be open to that?
Of course, I'd be open to that. It's a totally different world to be at 205, but I fought there plenty of times, and definitely I would like to maybe, sit back and try to look at that. The rubber match with Tony, I don't think is really due. In my eyes, there shouldn't be a rubber match because I legitimately beat him twice, but other than that, if he claims the light heavyweight title again, then maybe that's something he wouldn't mind looking at to try to get some redemption against me in that aspect. But, if it's him, then yeah, definitely I don't mind. I beat him twice already, so why not try to go take it again?
Mm-hmm. Sure, definitely. Nick, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you would like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, I got a ton of sponsors, so I appreciate that, Trey's Nutrition, my nutritionist, we got Jimmy Horns Elite Performance, True Soldiers, my strength and conditioning, let's see, dang, there's a lot. I got, you guys draw a blank when this happens, man. I can't even, it sucks, I can't believe that. NutraVape, one of my newest sponsors, eValue Software is another one that just got added, so I'd like to thank all of them for helping me continue to be able to do what I'm supposed to do and become and stay a champion. For the fans, I hope to see you guys jump on my wagon and enjoy the show because I won't let them down and look forward to plenty of good fights.
Nick, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck May 10th against Lucas Tabor and then June 22nd against Cody East.